Thank you.
I believe since I don't recognize.
So before we begin, we want to share that we will be recording tonight's meeting. We do plan to share this recording publicly in the event that a student, parent, staff, or community member would like to know what was discussed. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let us know at this time. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. So I will call this meeting to order at 6:01. And we rise to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the agenda is our public hearing, redistricting for director of districts. I believe I need to open and close this. So, open the hearing at 6:02.
So, board, as you recall, we presented back in November information for your review upon the redistricting review. Every 10 years after the census, we examine the census data to determine whether redistricting is necessary. It was determined that it was necessary in this case. We presented a plan for 5 different districts versus 3 different districts. Right now, we are a 5-director district boundary. The decision at that time was to remain as such and not pursue any further conversations about shifting it to 3 director districts with 2 at-large positions. So this hearing is required by law for us to weigh in for any constituency in the public to comment on said redistricting prior to you taking action. So the opening tonight allows the public that opportunity for voice with regard to that plan. What we realized when we shared the data back in November that there were very minimal changes to the director boundaries, to include no changes with you as a 5-member team of elected officials. So that would be the comment, and the next steps would be to see if there's any public comment prior to closing hearing.
Okay, I'll invite any commentary. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing at 6:04. So now we'll move on during our regular board meeting to community comments. So Bonnie, I would ask if there's anybody who would like to speak tonight. Your department. Okay. Would you like to follow?
Sure.
Well, I didn't know if you just signed in.
I just signed in. Yeah, I certainly don't mind commenting, if there's an opportunity.
This is Carrie, you just came in.
Okay, so I would invite you to the podium, let a comment, and you have 3 minutes.
Well, hello. Thank you for addressing me, especially last minute. Something that I wanted to bring up, I mean, obviously we're all aware of what happened a few days ago. There's been a lot of instances of bullying last week, or at the last meeting. I know some of that was brought up. I'm aware we just hired a new substance abuse counselor, which I think is a really good thing for the district. But something that I'm curious if the district has been doing is looking into more of how do we get ahead of some of these issues, like maybe some of the whys that this is going on. I know coming out of that survey there were really high numbers of students reporting depression, reporting substance abuse, reporting risky behaviors, reporting not feeling supported. I think it was only 50% felt like they had a trusted adult. And I know that right now it seems like we're going through a staff shortage, which means there's a shortage of trusted adults even available to these students. A shortage of counselors. At the middle school, 2 counselors for almost 2,000 to 3,000 students. That's a pretty high student-counselor ratio. So I'm wondering, as far as ways to improve student support, if there are opportunities to look at what are some issues that teachers are facing right now, kind of like the survey that you did, Mr. Slaughter, for the parents. If we do something like that, what are the big issues facing teachers, and how do we get about supporting those? What are ways that the counselors can get ahead of some of these student support issues such as could they do a newsletter to parents on things that parents can be doing at home to create more supportive environments for their children, things that they can be aware of as far as cell phone or social media usage that can help student mental health.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think that's something we can definitely follow up on and share that information back out to you. So I'll look ahead to follow up and do you share your email on the sign sheet? Wonderful. That's great. We can definitely, I know there's actually projects happening to address some of those concerns, so we can share what we're doing, and then we're always open to more ideas. So thank you for your concern for our kids. Wonderful. All right. Okay. I skipped ahead to community comments and missed the board recognition section, which is our opportunity to talk about things that we're seeing in the district that we're really excited about. So I'll open it up to the board for any comments.
I had a couple of things. One, I finally got to see a middle school girls basketball game of my other babysitting, and I have to say there were a lot of people who were attending it, a lot of people, and the PA system wasn't working. So Mr. Polly at halftime walked along the bleacher, reminding people in the stand, please wear your mask because we want to continue to have the audience here. We want the audience to be able to come here for the kids. And I mean, he went and personally was walking along reminding people so that, because he couldn't speak about it over the loudspeaker. And I have to say, Principal Jensen just showed me some terrific pictures of what's going on at the Lake Skills class. Up at PTR, and they're just wonderful. I hope you share them with some other people. They're just,
Very cool.
I had the opportunity to attend the Winter Wishes Assembly at the high school yesterday. I was invited to come today too, but I couldn't break away from work, which was unfortunate because I really would have liked to have been there for the second day of that. The reason it was split into 2 days is the social distancing part, and Principal Freeze, as he's down there getting all these kids who are excited to be in assemblies, reminding them, if you can put a little space between your hind end and the other, we can continue to have these in-person assemblies instead of virtual. But it was just a fun watching all the high school students and our student leadership kind of take that role on, and all the giving that happened, not just within the school community, but outside of that. It was just an amazing thing to see and be a part of. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm hoping maybe our board student reps can actually address that maybe tonight after, towards the end. But they fulfilled a phenomenal amount of wishes and did a lot of hard work on that. And to me, it's just one of the reasons for the season, the giving and the sharing of joy, and that was a really fun thing to be able to witness. So thanks for the invite, and I brought it back to y'all.
I'd like to give some outstanding recognition to the students at Ptarmigan Ridge who collected over 7,500 non-perishable food items. And also Orting Middle School, their community service team, they broke their record of over 2,000 items collected. Several hundred families are going to have some food. And it's a great time for that, especially this time of year. So I love that leadership and that community service aspect. It's pretty strong here in Orting.
Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Freeze and Dave for bringing so much school spirit to the last couple of games. I don't know if you guys really went out and talked to kids, or maybe it was Freeze, but it was so awesome to see so many kids at the basketball game. I mean, it was like the whole stands were full, and I just researching because it's a passion of mine, what school spirit brings to the community and to the schools. And the football games, we had so many kids and yelling, and they were doing. I loved it. It was really great to see. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad to see that coming back. So I thank you for that. And then another school spirit thing is that Ptarmigan, I was there, and it was so cool to see all the teacher doors decorated. It's like something fun that they do, and I love that, because the kids love it. And so the kids love looking at the doors and the elves and all the things, so it was really cool.
And something that's addressed in a couple of the reports tonight, I just had to give a shout out to Ed and Dave and all the people, the activities bus. Thank you. Wow. So many kids that could not get involved before can get involved. Just, it was a great accomplishment for the district to start doing that.
Oh, and Mr. Lee, he's been studying a lot. And it's very nice to have a supper.
Something where?
Oh, everywhere. There's no shortage of pizzas.
Oh, my goodness.
I live here, shout out to Rashawn too, like the way things are looking, like the website and communication, the social media, it's looking good. And we're looking more polished, and I'm really digging that, so thank you.
And I want to include Mr. Carlson too, in the high school spirit. I forgot Mr. Carlson, he wasn't looking
I want to give a shout out to our FFA club, who I don't know if you guys know, but they've got 2 awards, Program of the Year, which is fantastic, and also outstanding cooperation with Burr Run Nursery, one of our local nursery businesses here. And so I believe that program is kind of new, 1 year in. First year, so, you know, part of our mission is to engage kids, and I love that this exists and that we can continue to support these guys.
Like, I was so proud to see Kenny in that picture.
Yes.
And lots to celebrate with lots of great things happening in our district. And we get that on track.
So we have a lot of shows.
We did, I love that. I love that. We're up to community comments, now superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. I have a few slides to show, which will share some visual examples of what many of the things you brought up tonight with a few others to share. You all mentioned the activity bus, so we have over 250 students riding that each month, 287 September through 27 October, 600 to 750 miles per month, and we intend to keep removing barriers as best we can. One of the best ways that we can ensure that we have high levels of academics or ensure that we have the right social, emotional, behavioral, mental health supports, and really get students involved in our school community. The activity bus is just one of the many ways that we do that. We have All-American cheerleaders represent our school at Disney World over Thanksgiving. So Isabella, Haley, and Ellie, there they are in their outfits at Walt Disney World representing our school, represented as All-American cheerleaders. We have ScratchBased Cooking. So I asked you last month to visualize homemade ScratchBased chicken fettuccine Alfredo, and there it is. So we have Caesar salad, Alfredo, this is Mario's plate of PTR, fresh green beans, fruit, and you can see this in your board packet, hard to see in an email, but I'll just read a brief quote from something that came in from the community with regard to the meals, and one to give kudos when due. Please know that this year Cassie at the helm, food services has gone above and beyond. The lunches provided not only smell amazing, but taste even better. My direct communication to provide tools to my special needs students has been met with nothing but exemplary professionalism. It is much appreciated. That's just one example of many of the kudos. The challenge that our leaders have faced is our breakfast serving has gone from 15 to 17 to 150, and our facilities were not built to serve as many meals as are being accessed. So we're continuing to wrestle with that idea of the facilities and the space and time. However, one thing that we can say is whenever they get there, it is some delicious cooking. Agency, you're going to see a little bit more of us unpacking that tonight as we go out and about to walking with leaders each week. We see some just wonderful examples. This just was so touching. We were at OPS And this is only just had a chart of what she's thankful for. So attached, you'll just see things that she noticed about each of her students and lifted that in a public way. When we talk about agency in that sense of community or feeling belonging, there's a lot of ways of how we might measure that, but when we see examples like that, we just have to celebrate and say, thank you for helping your students to feel included. There's a high school example that we saw at OHS in our walkthroughs, where students are really unpacking what does it mean to have a great place to learn? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it look like? And they're using ideas to help be empowered and charge their way through that learning progression. So that student voice element, not only have you seen Rashad try to include that from district communication, but that's an example of what it looks like actually in the classroom. We'll talk a little bit more about that. As you know, in our strategic plans this year, our leaders are focusing on agency as one element of their goal setting. And I want to share just a few more examples, and some of you have shared that. Winter Wishes, over $9,000 was donated from our community, our staff, our PTTE to give away prizes and awards. This choked me up. Chad Nesnick has worked here for many, many years, and a student just went out of his way to work with Calbrick and Chad's baseball hero that solicited a personally signed baseball in Chad's honor and recognition. And he had another baseball with over 20 signatures of former athletes, and it just, there were a few dry eyes, but mine weren't part of it. It was just incredible. And here we have Aaliyah. She always wanted to learn how to play a fiddle, and they presented her with a new fiddle, which come to find out is the same instrument as a violin, because we did a violin and a fiddle, and I had to Google what's the difference, and it turns out there isn't. But Aaliyah walked away with a new fiddle yesterday, which was incredible. But what you see when we talk about in the updates about handing the microphone, those aren't adults that are planning and leading and facilitating that. It is student-led, which is a component of agency, what we would want to see. Here we have a little shot about Computer Science Week, and a little shout out that we saw on Facebook of what's happening. And Rashad against capturing student voice. When we walked into the classroom, students just bombarded us with, you want to see my robot, you want to see my car, and talking about their learning and how they're revising their thinking, and it's just incredible. That's the kind of engagement at OMS we would want to see. Just phenomenal, and we're trying to lift those stories out so parents can see what's happening in the classroom, and we can make that public. You mentioned FFA. Part of what we want to think about there is not only celebrate what's happening now, but as we begin to re-envision what does a new high school look like 5, 6, 7 years down the road, how do we build the kind of facilities that will facilitate the types of agency and ownership that will set students up for future careers in that industry. So just a huge shout out to them, and you mentioned that, and I'm so glad you did, because that program is just starting out, and to have that kind of recognition early on is incredible. Hard to beat elements of agency in the performing arts. Would you believe it's been 2 years since we have had performing art performances here in the district? And I don't know that there was hardly space in any crowd that we saw. Here we see our Orting High School band, Mr. Dave Broker, was incredible performances led by our high school students. We have Mr. Smith at the middle school, and as many students as you see participating, that's how many students are able to be included and participate in after-school activities. And the stands, it was packed. It was a full house that night. It was an absolutely incredible performance. We had our combined choir, Miss McCall. Watching her instruct, holy moly, she is incredible. And the way she breaks down learning and gives real-time feedback and is so clear in her success criteria. And then to see the connection with student agency. Sneak peek, you'll hear more about this next month with Mr. Collins' presentation, but our choir has been asked to sing the national anthem at a Mariners game this spring. So we're hoping you can get a little sneak peek or talk to some students. Wonderful examples of what that inclusion and community look like. We had a fall play. I laughed. It was incredible. The internet is distract. Oh, look, a kitten. And they really embodied in play performance all the different ways you can rabbit hole and get distracted with the internet. It was hilarious. And again, a packed house with several performances. So we're really seeing that there's not only a lot of opportunities for involvement, but to see the performing arts back in our halls was just wonderful. You mentioned the food drive, thousands of pounds of food, hundreds of families supported. That's what being in a community looks like. When we saw the feedback for our strategic plan, our stakeholders really noted community as one of our strengths, and we want to build off of that. So you'll continue to see measures and examples of how we can partner with community, not only in the social, emotional, mental health world, but ways to get involved and give back. And then lastly, test to stay implementation, we've been talking about that. As a brief update, we really don't see a potential for change on the use of face coverings this school year. We talked about test to stay, so from the last time till now, over 52 students have access test to stay. That shortens the amount of time out of school from 8 days to 2. And if you think about that number, 6 days times 52, that's over 300 school days already that those students are able to stay in school. And one of the biggest predictors of who's going to succeed is who's actually here for instruction, which is why we had so many damaging things with kids not here and not having that contact with instructors. So we're already seeing huge accessibility with our parents and community, which results in kids in school and improving their social emotional outlook and their academic achievement. We have many more awesome things to share, and we're excited for you to talk with our leaders a little bit more what that looks like at their personal level. That concludes my
So much for information. So now, we have our financial report prepared by, who's been, not who you are, yay, back there. Is there any questions? Prepared by? Nice tight shift, thank you, Marcy. And now we're ready for Mr. Slagle.
Yeah, I'd love to just say a couple things. Mr. Slagle has been charged with a few things this year. We're not only trying to get back and return from the pandemic to an included program with athletics and activities, but we tasked him with trying to expand that in the community as well, looking to partnerships and building with the city of Orting and try to make sure that nonprofits have that accessible use. We don't want our families to have to drive 45, 50 minutes after school to participate. We want to try to keep that here if we can, because the closer it is and the more accessible it is, the more we're able to remove those barriers and ensure students can participate. So with the rest of the principal colleagues here tonight, we figure we might as well have him come too and share a little bit of a high-level update of what's happening in the world of athletics and activities, and he'll give you some sound bites of where we've been and a little bit of insights in terms of where we're headed.
Superintendent Hatfield, thank President Thibodeau, and member of the board, thanks for giving me this opportunity. Director Slaughter, nice to meet you officially. Nice to have you on board, Director Turkey. And I think one of the biggest celebrations that I want to chat about tonight is, and it's reflective of the board's opening comments and the board's noticing, is the culture that we're continuing to grow. Having our kids back is a huge part of that. I wanted to share an unsolicited email I got from an opponent's parent after a soccer function, and that was a new program supported by the board. It says, hello, my two boys played for Sumner Middle School soccer. They had the opportunity to compete against your soccer team last week. I just wanted to share that both from my boys' perspective, the young gentlemen on the field were very kind and encouraging, and your soccer coach was clearly caring, compassionate, and encouraging, and your school's philosophy and culture resonated with his players. Although the game ended with a shutout against your team, I've been moved to tears many times over the sportsmanship that I've never witnessed and I thought did not exist. I just hope that you can convey to your coach and to your players how refreshing, uncommon, and phenomenal your coach and team were. I was and still am moved by the maturity and kindness of all involved. It was an honor to be a parent at your facility, and it was my boys' honor to play against home. Thank you for the unexpected and impactful experience. So that's from the Savage Squad. They squashed us. But this is what athletics and activities need to be about. It's also reflected in the high school golf team. Extraordinarily successful, won the sportsmanship award out of the league. Our coach was coach of the year. Our volleyball team also won the sportsmanship award this year. So we're building the young men and young women that we want to be the products of our organizational work. And so I'm very proud to be leading that work. Some additional celebrations. We had incredible success on the contest fields this fall. All of our teams advanced to postseason, including football and cross country and golf, which all headed to state. We have students at solo ensemble is for instrumentalist music. We have students participating in that at the state level this year. Our girls soccer team and our volleyball team made district appearances this year. If you look at hiring, the support from our human resources department has been incredible, even through transitions. Those are just the fall hires. Those boys basketball staff, girls basketball staff, those were ground-up builds, head coach and both assistant coaches. Those were complete hires. At middle school, one of the things we're seeing, and it's coming up, is we're seeing a return to pre-pandemic numbers of participation, which in partnership with OXA has demanded that we fill additional coaching positions. So those are just from the first 2 seasons of middle school athletics. Those are the positions that we've hired this year and have had on the field ready to go to work with our kids and support. I mentioned the numbers. You guys have seen this previously. We're returning to our pre-pandemic numbers. Last year was really hard. But when we look at 1920 in the fall, that's kind of our last normal seasons. We're rebuilding those numbers. You see boys soccer there. We had 44 kids out this year for a brand new program, which was essentially 3 soccer teams. It's incredible. They finished their games in the dark because of daylight savings. We learned to turn the lights on at the beginning of the game so we didn't get caught. But to have 45 kids out, and those are kids who have not participated in other athletics. So to watch us adapt to our student population is really important, and it's good to see. I'll be the third person to mention the activity bus. That's been huge. I sent out a survey prior to the school year to just kind of gauge ridership and to work with transportation about route planning. We needed to know where we were going. Huge response from parents. That's why you saw baseball numbers. We had 50 kids out for middle school baseball. That's a lot of blue, and that's a lot of kids swinging bats. But we put the right people in charge of that. The new program at OMS, boys soccer, was a huge win. Huge win. Puts us in line with our league, and again brought out a large number of kids that hadn't been out. Club participation, Mr. Collins has said to move clubs out of the library into the commons because there's so many kids participating in some of them, particularly D&D and
anime, particularly.
So Dungeons and Dragons Club, there's about 45 kids on any given day, and anime club. So other successes and stuff.
Sorry, where did they go? In the gyms or?
No, they're in the commons at the
Oh,
middle
they're
school. So they used to meet in the library.
commons.
Now they're meeting in the commons.
Okay, great.
Huge celebration was some engagement with the Lions Club in terms of the lease of the Orville property, which is sort of sad as a feral hayfield. They're going to take over the management of that so that we can address one of our challenges in the district, which is access to field space and athletics spaces. So facilities limitations. Our gym spaces are booked. Many people in the community are aware. From 2:30 in the afternoon until 9 o'clock at night, all of our gym spaces are used, and that's causing a real press for both our programs and Curtis's staff, because when we're in the facilities, they're not able to either do the routine maintenance and/or the projects that need to be done in necessarily timely ways. Field space, also a limitation. We ran into having 3 squads needing to access the turf field at the same time at the overlap with boys soccer, so we had to get creative about grass space and other spaces that we wouldn't necessarily want to use. Youth programs, we need to rebuild those here in the city. And so I've been in conversation with Scott Larson at the city on how can we partner and put interlocal agreements in place so that city programs can utilize our facilities and our people without overtaxing them, because building leaders will speak to the fact that our teachers and our staff are tired. And then, frankly, COVID is a challenge. And I put it, it's got 2 bullets, because there's management, that's the day-to-day. We're spending roughly 2.5 to 3 hours of personnel time a day to manage COVID, just in terms of athletics. That's every day between the high school and the middle school. Then the additional challenge is the COVID response. So you may have heard the buzz about wrestling tournaments and everything else. That directly impacts my day. It impacts Michaela's day. We have Test to Stay. Our men's basketball program is currently out on Test to Stay because of some exposure at a game on Monday. So there's that sort of responsiveness is one hard to predict. It takes a great deal of time and energy to make sure that we're keeping our kids safe. Next steps, we're going to continue to expand our offerings. Esports, we're part of a pilot with the WIA this year to offer esports. So kids were literally playing video games against other schools across the state. They can letter in it. It's a sanctioned activity. The games are vetted so that they're appropriate for the school environment. We're working with United Way of Pierce County. They offer a varsity letter and community service. So for kids where that's their real engagement place and space in school, that's available. OMS Girls Cross Country is going to go off this spring. That'll be the first year that we've run ladies cross country at the middle school level. Working with the Orting Lacrosse Club to pull them into the fold. It's a really complex organization in the state. Their boundaries don't follow district boundaries. You know, if you live on one side of the river, you might be ours, but in terms of school, but you belong to Bonnie Lake. So there's some subtleties that we have to figure there. And then we're holding our first unified athletics, sort of the old different model than Special Olympics. We're going to run a Pack the Gym night, which is a basketball event for our kids in our life skills classroom. So it's a mixed teams of life skills students and gen ed students having a band and cheer and kick that off. There's a work from, we've got a proposal from one of our track coaches to start running Unified Olympics for our track program this spring. So we're really going to bridge into that. Looking forward, we can also work in it's actually interscholastic Unified Olympics and Unified Athletics for soccer, basketball, and track. So those would be the builds that we're looking at over in the near future. Also looking in partnership with the city. When the city constructed, there's a new grass field behind the grass or ball fields. They've got some wetlands mitigation and offsets that they have to purchase to do that. So Elliot Skate at the middle school, his classes are going to work with the city engineer on some habitat restoration, invasive species removal, eventually bridging into raising native plant species and being able to plant those. We've partnered with the city on 2 SEEP grants. I don't remember honestly what the acronym means, but it would be to offer summer programs. One would be outdoor education-oriented work with K-5 students, more or less on Wednesdays, 5 episodes, and then another grant application that's in with the state around running a summer day camp for K-5 students, potentially using our students as camp counselors. So there's a win-win there in terms of providing our kids meaningful work over the course of the summer, meaningful involvement, as well as strategic programming for youngsters K-5. And we couldn't do that without the help and support of the folks that you see there. Transportation in terms of getting that activity bus off the ground, health services, the investment that the district has made in personnel to support COVID management. The facilities guys have been incredible. Curtis and his crew, we need something and it's happening for us. And so I want to make sure that they get their thank you. Contest helpers, Joanne's well aware she loses. If she doesn't go to a football game, she's at home solo on Friday night. Because to run a football game takes about 15 people, just paid staff. All of our games take staff. And honestly, it's hard to grab folks to do that. So the people that come out are doing that because they love kids. So they need a thank you. Our ASD, Sarah On at the high school, Jessica Robbins at the middle school, doing an incredible job making sure that our kids have the funding, the equipment that they need to pursue their passions. And then community. People are out and involved and excited about being in the stands. And honestly, you talked about Mr. Pauly, policing mask. We've not had the fights that my colleagues in other districts have had. That for some, throwing a game or throwing an event, it's horrible. They're having a horrible time. And our community has not given us that level of grief. So I do appreciate that very much. Because our folks are there to help support kids and to have to engage in some of the battles they're having with parents who's not wanting to get us to be in the stadium. So thanks to our families for that. That's my brief overview. Happy to answer any questions folks might have.
I don't have any questions for you, but I would like to thank you. That was a very thorough report, and it was very informative, so thank you for all that. There's a lot going on, and you've obviously been busy.
Our schools are really busy places. And just having business that energy is contagious.
And I'm excited that you're looking for new things. I'm really excited about the not special Olympics, what did you call it?
Unified athletics.
Unified athletics, yes.
It runs under a different charter, but it's very, very similar idea.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Ms. Bonnie, do you need a laptop or are you good on a jump drive?
I might need some assistance.
Assistance?
Yeah, I think we have one more report.
Between.
This is our big annual review of the report. And asking the board if there's any comments or questions. None from you. Okay. Okay. Hope you're safe. And now we're ready for agency within.
See the vision. Mr. Lee's not entertaining by himself. Take that one, put that right over here. Should be good.
A little switch room here.
Well, that's not the right way. That's supposed to be good. So right here. You want that up there? Poking in. You want that? You can tell jokes or something.
Well, I can go ahead and get started the reason all these people are here tonight is because we're gonna talk about our school improvement plan, and one thing we added was the C part in front of the SIP, which is a continuous school improvement plan. And we want to really stress the idea that it's a continuous improvement, that just because we set a goal and we said, there we go, there's no there we go, or what Chris would say, the ta-da. I also want to acknowledge that, as Ed and I were talking about me introducing this, Ed says, you know what, they're not going to remember anything you say anyway, so you can say whatever you want. Okay, so I can say literally whatever I want. We will lie to me literally, so. I just want to give you, we want to give you some background and some foundation, just kind of root the idea around what the SIPs are going to look like, the C-SIPs are going to look like. And like I said, our principals work incredibly hard on this. It's a shift. It's a different kind of plan than we used to. It's very, I think, heavy in the idea that change comes from having a clear vision and a way forward. And actually, taking a plan and not just putting it on a shelf and living it has really been our goal for every part of this. So, hopefully we can close to it.
Aaron, I would just jump in and say, I will remember what you say.
Yeah, that's right.
board meetings, I think that we have, and it's our chance to hear what the schools are working on and your successes and the things that you're working on moving forward with the students. So I really value this meeting and the time and energy that goes into putting these plans together.
And I really appreciated that everybody used the same form and the same format. That was so much easier to see the connection. Like just,
We're close. Okay, another joke or two. Let's see, can I just say how proud I am of these principals and how hard they work every single day. Like I went to most of the schools today and honestly, just seeing them in action is incredible. And this time is really, really hard to be really anything in education, but it's particularly hard to be a leader in education. Not only are they holding themselves together, but they're holding their staff together as well, and all the students in the school. That's not an easy task, so I'm really proud of that. It's an honor to work with you.
I'm so grateful that you added the continuous to this, because I think that when you just see something as a blank improvement plan, that you always feel like you're failing. And there's so much to celebrate in the success area that without that continuous there, it always feels like you're just treading water and never making gains. And so I love that the continuous is there, because we all have something to improve upon no matter what we're doing and where we're doing it. So I love that. It just feels better.
And Ed has reassured me, he's talked to you many times about our mission, vision, values, that will hold us to that forever, because it is a work in progress, as they always should be, because just like people aren't static, and learning is not static, our goals will shift as well, so. Okay, so we're ready to go? Are you my?
I'm your guy.
Okay, all right, let's go on.
Let's go for it.
Go to the one that says purpose of continuous school, there you go, good. So just to review in why we actually have a school improvement plan, it really talks about our mission, vision, and values and how it lives in every one of our schools. Now, every one of our administrators here has a vision for what that mission looks like and how it's going to work in their school. And so it's really important not only for us to ground ourselves in that, but it's important to have their vision as well. That's what this fund is really for. So it's not just for the staff, not just for you, it's really for our community as well. So go to the next one. Perfect, right there. So we started off in August, really setting the stage for what's really important to us as a district, which is really thinking about agency equity and innovation. We had an author came and he actually did a fantastic presentation for us, George Kuros, talked about the innovator's mindset. And then in September, we really started talking about TPET, which is the evaluation system that teachers are put under. And we connected that to student agency and equity. And then on September 29th, we talked about homeroom training. Homeroom is, remember back in school we had homeroom? It's kind of like the first class you went to. And then like it's where you got all your homework and your teachers checked your grade. Well, in this case, it's actually the data dashboard. So all of our data goes into one place. And now our administrators, teachers, counselors can find that in one spot. So we had a training for that, and we quickly found out during that training that we had to do individual training because every school with its own vision has its own idea about what the data should be for that school. So we did that in September, and then October 13th, did a presentation here about our MTSS program, being our keystone. I'll go to that in a second. And then we did cabinet visits in mid-October, late October, where each one of our leaders talked about their vision of their school. That was enacted this year. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that part. And then November 3rd, we talked about how we're going to use that data in our school. And we spent a lot of time talking about how the end needs to not be like scores around, like, for example, attendance. Like, if you measure attendance and that's all you care about, that's not the end we want to look for, right? Because what we really care about is what? Having students come to school, be at school learning, right? That's our end. And so we talked deeply about, like, what kind of data should we use, and how should that data be interpreted. And then on November 17th, we talked about student agency, which is, I'll define here for you in a minute. And today we're November 16th, so go to the next one. So here is our mission, our fundamental purpose. If you're familiar with Simon Sinek, he's the guy in the golden circle. In the very, very middle, he has the why we do things, and then outside of that's the how, and then the very outside is the what we do. Well, the most important part is the how we do things, or why we do things. And so why do we actually come to school every single day? It's really to have kids that are connected, inspired, and empowered. That's the most important part. But how do we actually do that? It really is in partnership with parents and guardians, and really thinking about our students as the center of our work. So the three words that are really important to remember: connect, inspire, and empower. So student agency, I remember when we first talked about this, with principals, we got a lot of blank look, but what is student agency? Well, if you remember back right around 2000s, there was a lot of research that came out about grit. And you probably heard about the grit research. All kids really need to have is grit and perseverance. So if we just build that in every single student, every student will be able to reach their goals. Well, what was missing out of that is the skills and dispositions to really achieve that perseverance. So we can't just, in other words, you can't walk up to a kid and say, we just have a little bit of grit, like persevere, right? When they have poverty, when they have things that are really overwhelming in terms of how they get past that. And so what agency does is it develops those skills in kids so they can develop a goal, so they can follow their goals. And so agency is really those skills and dispositions for kids to really persevere. And so on one end, you have empowerment. That's what we really want out of kids. The other end, we have compliance. And if you think about like empowerment, that doesn't mean we just say, give the classroom kids the keys, or keys to kids, and just say, go ahead and learn by yourself. It's really about intentionally building the skills that will help them become successful. So we're really looking at really 4 different quadrants, or 4 big ideas that go along with agency. And so the first one on the upper left-hand side there is around innovation. And if you think about what is learning, learning is really developing new pathways in your brain. It is impossible to learn something and not build something new and be creative around that. It is an impossibility. And so in order for students to really learn things, they have to make sense of it on their own. Now before, what we did is we taught things to kids, and we just kind of relied on some kids figuring it out. So if I was to teach you a math problem right now, for example, you would make sense of that in your brain. Like right now, I'm having a discussion with you, and you're making sense of what innovation is in your own mind, right? So instead of me relying on that and just saying, well, look at it and figure out how to figure that out, we intentionally actually go after that with kids. The upper right-hand quadrant there is called ownership. This is where students drive their own learning. We found there's a difference between education and schooling. And schooling is where I go to school, I play the game, I go to every class, I show up, I look like I'm paying attention, kind of like what Joanne's doing right now, shaking her head, and yep, I get it. But the reality is, unless students actually own the learning, what's going to end up happening is that they're not engaged in that. And if you go through school, probably getting all A's, they're not really learning anything, right?
You're learning how to pay attention, pretend like you're paying attention.
That is a skill. Bottom left-hand side is efficacy, and this is actually probably the most important one out of all of them that we really do. This is the belief that what I do makes a difference. And if you think about when you work hardest is when you know that the work you're doing matters. And the lower right-hand corner is belonging. And this is what kids will actually do anything for. I mean, literally anything for. They will break the law. They will run out of school to have belonging. And so the idea is that we need to build schools where they belong, where they're cared for, known, and loved. And if we do that, they will be good. Scroll to the next one. So we spent some time with these leaders right here talking about how you actually measure that. So you're going to see some of those today around agency. And before I move on to that, Mr. Hassel, do you have anything you want to add around agency?
No, it's wonderful.
Okay, just want to make sure. So these are all the measures that the principals came up, and you'll see some of these measures in their school improvement plans, if you actually scroll from one. So here's the district goals that we're formulating. So goal 1 is really around successful academic foundation. And we really have to not let go of the academic piece of what we're doing here in schools. Kids still have to learn how to read and write. They still have to learn how to do math. But that has to be to a rigorous level that they can apply and make meaning of. Goal 2, this is really around the college and career readiness skills that kids really need to have as they graduate. And we included the word agency in that as well. Goal 3 is whole child. We see a lot of this, where schools can't just do reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. We have to consider the development of the entire student, not just part of that student. I'll get into what that means here in a second. And then the last one's around successful transitions through graduation. We can no longer just say, well, they're in 12th grade, see you later. We have to actually develop the skills and dispositions and actually put them up with those resources as they go through school. So those are our 4 goals, and now before you scroll up, hold on, sorry. So this is what the what part, right? That's how we ensure student success. The how we do it, if you think back in November when we presented the idea around the MTSS system, multi-tiered systems of support system, being the keystone to what we're doing, that's what that meant. Is how do we actually get to that? Is through that MTSS, multi-tiered system support system. So you can scroll forward. So here's the elements of that, and a lot of these things will look familiar to you. If you've ever been in a school, academic learning, that's not new, is it? But what is new is becoming a bigger part of what we offer students, is the social emotional learning, which is, how to interact with one another. And you think about this, a lot of times, kids will have this naturally, but not always. And what's happening more and more often is that kids are coming to school without that. And so we have to, as time goes on, we have to evolve and really think about how do we connect social emotional learning to the education they're getting in school. Also behavioral learning as well. So this isn't just like behave like I want you to. It's actually, processing and thinking about how does my behavior impact my success. And then if you look over the left-hand side there, we talked about guaranteed valuable curriculum in the past. This is like what do we guarantee every single student, no matter what grade level they're in, will get from every single teacher. And the valuable part is, given the amount of time that we have, what can we actually realistically do? Write that down, have it, and make sure that we follow it. As Steve and I go through when we talk about curriculum for literacy, for K through 5, we'll go through our guaranteed valuable curriculum process and how we follow through that. We'll do that with math, social studies, science, we'll do every company. The other 2 areas there are learner-driven, data-informed. This is where that homeroom system I was talking about earlier, it's really important to have data, but again, what you do with data is really important and powerful. And so we spend a lot of time as a group on that. And then the last one is that coordinated systems of support. You'll notice that a lot of the goals that our leaders came up with is really around the coordinated system. So in other words, how does the school then coordinate the work that's happening? Because if you don't coordinate it, you get a lot of independent contractors that keep working there. So just like with the agency, we spent some time talking about how we're going to measure those things. Now one thing we'll do as a district is we'll come back and we'll share our district measures as well. So all this goes together to really talk about how student agency and MTSS comes together to create an equitable, learner-focused classroom. That is our most important outcome. It's really why we exist. One more.
Karen, I'm sorry. Back on the slide, a couple back, I had a question. There's an acronym there you'll understand.
Sure.
CFA is on regular cycles.
Yes.
30, 60, 90. CFA is.
Stands for Common Formative Assessment.
Thank you.
And what that means is that every teacher will give that so that they can talk about, not just at the end, like a lot of data is autopsy, in other words, you can't do anything about it. The Common Formative Assessment allows you to use that for learning, and you can go back and adjust the instructions so that students can learn what they missed.
Perfect. Okay. The other acronyms are very nice with that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what you see tonight is really 3 different areas, and the slide got a little cockeyed, but that's okay. So really we're looking at the school profile, which is where's the school right now. We'll look at what are the priorities of that school, because you can't do it all. If you prioritize a couple of things, guess what? You probably actually accomplish that. If you try to do everything, you'll accomplish nothing. And so we've asked our principals to really look at what's a couple priorities, 2 or 3 that they have, and then really write goals on that. So next slide. So the school profile will talk about who are we right now, and then in that will be the vision for the future. What do they believe will actually take the school to the next level? Is the next one? And each one of our schools has 3 goals. They have one around student agency, they have one around that multi-tiered system of support, and they have one around academic or grade level. So, last slide here is, this is how we're going to do this thing. So we're going to do it, some of you will probably remember this from the past. But what's going to happen is that you'll see that we have 4 tables here. Each one of you is assigned to a table. And we'll give principals, we said between 8 and 10 minutes to really talk about the school improvement plan. And we wanted to leave about 2 minutes for you to ask questions and for them to give answers around that. So I'll be the timer, and I'll give you a 10-minute warning. I'll say 10 minutes is gone, and then we'll have 2 minutes left after that. And then we'll rotate And I think we'll just rotate clockwise. So if you start at the high school table, you're just gonna go right over here at OPS. OPS will go to PTR. PTR will go to OMS. All right, questions?
I just wanted to say thank you for having all the buildings having the same 3 goals. It really connects them to the district. And that was something that I always wanted to see in the school improvement plan, that they were connected with what the district was also starting. And I'm not saying that there aren't other things to work on, but I love the way everybody connected.
I want to thank you and everyone for putting in that the student needs to be engaged, because it's been my heart forever. You can't teach them if they're not engaged and you don't have that relationship. And to see that moving in that direction and bring them in, community engagement, whole child, I love that.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Lee. Board, we are super excited for you to spend more time with our wonderful leaders. I know they're excited to share about their school. They're doing a lot of unpacking with their teams. And so if you can't read up on the screen, Director Tracy, you're going to start by joining Orting High School along with Ms. Christian. Joining OPS will be Director Madigan and myself. And Grace, you're going to be over there to start too with Orting Primary. You're right there right now. Awesome. Orting Middle, Director Thibodeau, Director Slaughter. You're going to join Mr. Lee at OMS table. And joining the Tarpon and Ridge table, Director Kinsler. And Nadine, I don't believe, is here tonight. So Debbie will join you there as well. So after we get settled, Aaron will kind of give us a countdown and we'll start our process here in just a minute or two.
I'm going to run a timer too.
There's something more going to be about.
Sometimes I just look at the timer. I know. I'm mad at Hey, I'm good. How are you? Sorry to see you. Good. Look at the team charming it. Let's go. Right?
Good video.
Luckily we blocked it.
Okay, looks like we're mostly settled, okay? All right, so 10 minutes, principals, share your school improvement plan, and then I'll give you, after 10 minutes, I'll say you have 2 minutes remaining, and then we'll rotate after that. So, go.
I'm glad you get to start today. So, I introduce where we're at, and I was going to go back to the spring. I actually got to be automatic here. And there were 2 things about running that stood out but I think are and one is this sense of welcoming. I was blown away by the connections that every single student sees. Came to find out it's because the staff had a commitment to stay positive interactions with our students throughout the course of the day, and that is something that you will just see outside as you travel inside. Adults really take a lot of ownership and connecting with all the students. The other thing is a strong sense of collaboration. This is a staff who shares on informal levels and formal levels, instructional practices, resources, support, and those things just really made me have a strong desire to come back. I'm very excited to be part of the team. And the best part of those 2 things is getting to see, now that we have student staff, how both of those things translate to our students and how they bring them forward, which I think is the true strength. And so those 630 mountaineers that are coming through the door and being greeted and welcomed by staff, take that same quality and carry that forward. You will see our students, whether it is their classroom peers, connecting with our students with life skills, with the staff. I cannot tell you the number of times I so genuinely ask my students, how are you today, They really carried that out with each other, to the degree that I was in the classroom yesterday, and we were ready for instructional time, and several fifth grade students said, wait, we can't start, so-and-so's not here. They were waiting for their colleague, their classmate from the life skills program to join them for reading. And so they take a lot of care and make sure that they value each other. And then that same thing for collaboration. We have our students have, see that model, that working together, and we see that showing up in our student pledge team, our students lead that work, our leadership team that serves and supports not only our school community, but our greater community. I we got to celebrate our right? That was really exciting. And then perhaps even the most important part is the collaboration and working together and learning together for their own learning and as well as others. So taking those things and thinking about how we want to build on those strengths and move forward. You probably submitted our plan, but we have developed this vision for our school. The targeting community is committed to creating a school that goes no limits to the academic and social emotional success of each student, where all are supported and encouraged to contribute to the learning of themselves and others. A school where all feel safe, valued, welcomed, connected, inspired, and empowered. And so to do that, we just want to share with you kind of our 3 focus areas, and we're going to start with
You always sometimes talk real fast, so I'm trying real hard to not. And we run a lot of stuff, because there's a lot of stuff to hear about. But also realizing, like, what's the big idea? So that idea of everything is that, and we know that our child are historically at our times, we build systems that have not, that have created some unexpected and when we really think about how these kids, how these new babies know and what they've learned, they have to show us how to do this, either by speaking or by firing, and it's helping us move forward to make that happen. This year, coming in on the ship, they are coming with how do I have a conversation, and when they come to school, that's where they're going to see that relationship so that's our big kind of rock road, how we build relationships. It's how we just increase those opportunities and best practices around how do you pull up to your contract. So we have, for example, it's just really hard to see what someone else is doing. So we're going to also engage
So talking about going into the future,
and also how our kids are good at telling us they don't like it. They're also integrated
particularly this year,
and what works for them, what helps them, what helps them be and make them around that. What are kids see that these kids are and then also just to teach our kids. It's really good at what they learn how to teach.
but
It's
if you want to leverage that, students can
one of those guys
rigorous where they see meaning on,
thinking about the
feel connected to the learning.
so that idea being that well, that's just one to the core, it's a new thing. It just really means that within it, there's things that are considered to
So around that
we want to talk all the time, that those are not unique to
we,
just
one of the things we did with
and that's on most kids that need
climate
it.
they were
But there's some kids who need just a little bit more, and then some kids who need
a survey of
because,
to see
and that making a little system that allows kids to move forward and without it having to do it as first person. It would be a good thing that somebody would ensure to have a place where every kiddo comes to us with the exact same set of represent knowledge, but not that has yet to happen yet. I don't anticipate it happening anytime soon in my education career. So we have secondary school with some goals that we have with faculty. We have secondary kids after us reading like their kids to which means they need to
have to be
Feeling so safe.
Here's that idea of going rank that would be done.
We have a character, we have the advisory.
And so that's really our focus this year, like we're really here to be and making sure there's not a single kid in our school that's like competition, that we're not gonna miss a kid, making sure that anyone in our school will be guilty of exactly what they do, exactly where they're different, and that's what we're doing. So the idea of kind of I do, I'm gonna give it a data. But in order to build that data literacy with the staff, the best way to do that is with the peer roundtable. So when teachers says that, all they're gonna say. So we're gonna set focus on our peer community, really around that whole world. And to say, interventions are the right thing.
It is. We did it.
It feels really good for everybody to get a lot of. It also handles right where, yeah, all these things support this.
You're not getting to the academic part if you're not leaving them on.
Right, yes, we good. So thinking about, so as a building, huge focus on literacy. It was real hard, you know, to get that we wanted. That was really, really.
Moving on.
It was also really hard to teach kids how to make sounds and how to make when you're power we and ability. So as a whole, in the past, we tried.
You know that idea, think about that idea.
Grade levels, we don't feel great or trying their grade levels.
Not every kid's.
But the fact is, there's a standards at every grade level that are huge stepping stones that happen and huge stepping stones that get lost.
We made a goal that every single student.
There's a lot of standards in reading creating, but we're working, really working with our team for figuring out what are the most literacy. So these have to happen to be able to build
It is very hard.
and just to ensure that 100% of kids will know
Talk to some
that
kids,
these
we
have
know
that
it,
standard or about
but
that
what's gonna
standard.
give us a
How is it
good
not?
attract
When they're in an
One
intervention,
kid's still
they're
later in the year.
proactively putting
If we identify these kids.
that if they're not there yet, we know that they're gonna get there.
Some of them might say, hey, I'm the person that's wanted.
So that
All right, great.
though,
Great.
really surprising that district works are yearly advice
But for those students who just don't know or have.
one of the things with having elementary school is really making sure that the experiences that we commit to in our building to
Grammar, I really want to give.
is the
So
same
one of our
as the
areas
districts
is
that bigger than the building, but for the whole first grade.
I want to give.
Because if there's not a space where it's actually where it's, oh, if I get into this, you will be first grade, it's better.
Yeah.
You're a set of, that's not necessarily place, it's not necessarily what that means is to access those data. And that's not the plan, the other piece that I can see is, again, senior data, so this involves their goals. Families and their goals, teachers with their goals. Because the more we build that, we get
Okay, we're at 10 minutes, 2 more minutes. If you ever start your questions or answers at this time, you might want to start thinking about the.
Yeah. It was your last year. You're doing great. You're good. So much exciting stuff to talk about. It really was a lot. It was really good. How we're making sure knowledge knows what they're doing, that our teachers are doing, and that we have whenever I do see it's just because our kids won't get it if we don't all work together. And we just need to have desire for any other groups of guys that we have right on time. All of that is what we need to do. That's fine.
Well, I just wanted to kind of point out that, you said something there, we have 2 elementary schools, so you have that consistency throughout the district, not just at the school. So, you know, PTR can have, you know, 3 or 4 first grade classrooms that could be learning entirely different if they're not working collaboratively with the other schools. So I, for one, super appreciate the fact that that's the focus and that all of our first grade students are doing really and to your point, as you were talking earlier, those emotional emotional ties that the kids have. Again, from what you were saying, they feel like they belong, they come to belong to when they go to your village. And so not only do they feel belonging themselves, but they're also welcoming and belonging their peers, which is awesome to hear.
Yeah, and actually, we drive, we didn't no.
So you can take
The only reward that is a part of it is that I get to come take a class for recess. That is the extent of my involvement in it, and making sure that I can even make what the different staff members want to organize different districts last week. Like, they were like, we don't actually have a physical way to get 7,000 pounds of food out of the back of, like, out of our.
Okay, I know time flies when you're having fun, but that was 12 minutes. We can wrap up our question and answer session. Transition here and.
They're fun.
Should be a good year.
It's great.
It's not the same as pre-COVID, but it's getting better. Yeah.
Although I don't think I don't think they're like, I'm kind of okay with that. Like,
Probably one of the benefits, the things that will never go back.
Okay, so if we could spend this time rotating, so we're gonna go actually clockwise. So if you're at PTR, we're gonna come over here to OMS. If you're at OMS, you're going over here to the high school. If you're at the high school, you're gonna come right over here to OPS.
Yes. Yeah.
See, it's the element spinning time where I was trying to see that it was rubbed yeah. He's had to come over on several of our crazy outfit days, so.
Okay, now for the last round, we're gonna do 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I'll say you have 2 minutes remaining for questions and answers. And I'll start the 10 minutes now.
All right. Well, welcome to the team PPR. My name's Nita. I'm the new assistant principal at Quadrants and I get to kind of introduce our school, which is exciting to me because I got a sneak peek of it in the spring when I got to come and be an intern. And there were two things that just stood out to me in like really profound ways about Quadrants. And those two things are a sense of welcoming and belonging that is present at Ptarmigan. It turns out I learned that the staff have a commitment to a minimum 3 positive interactions for every student from the time they enter to the time they leave, and that is so present from their outside greeting, traveling through the building, their current teachers they've had, teachers they're going to have who are building relationships. It's really very powerful. And then a sense of collaboration among the adults. In informal and formal ways, this is one of the more sharing staffs that I've had an opportunity to work with, sharing resources, best practice, lifting each other up, offering support, elevating great opportunities, and sharing connections and relationships with kids. But the best part about both of those things is A, that I got to come back and be a regular part of the team. I was so excited about that. And as we have welcomed our 630 magnificent mountaineers, as we call them, watching them take those two things into our students who are receiving welcome, walk into our building and then extend that to each other. You will hear our students greeting each other the number of times they're so genuinely asked, "This is how you made today?" Actually stop and ask it. "Oh, that's so great, have a great day." So they're really seeing that model and then owning that themselves and impacting the community. And that includes people in their class, kids they see from our life skills program, and that we see at recess in class. The other day I was in class, in the 5th grade class, and they're getting ready to start reading. And my student in class says, "Wait, we can't start reading. So-and-so's not here." And so they really developed a sense of belonging with each other. And then same with collaboration. Our students have been so involved in supporting each other in the school community. They are serving outside daily. Our leadership students who are supporting and serving our school and our community, as you heard, are big fundraisers. And then collaborative class together. So many opportunities for students are partnering together to help their own learning and the learning of others. And that has been the best part of that, seeing that model in how our students are taking ownership So given that, we've kind of developed a vision which is in our plans, that the Quadrants community is committed to creating a school that knows no limits to the academic and social emotional success of each student, where all are supported and encouraged to contribute to the learning for themselves and others. A school where all are safe, valued, welcome, connected, and inspired. To get us there, we focused on those 3 areas we heard about, and we just going to share some of the work we're going to zero in on.
So starting with that agency and equity work and what that all means for us, is we know that in schools historically, there have been some systems that have built programs that have led to some disproportionate students. And what that has meant is that we need to now really look at some of those and what are some practices that we need to maybe shift and change to really change our practices. Kids really can only show us what they know and what they learn in ways. They either have to write about it or they have to talk about it. And having that component, the ability for kids to be able to talk and have conversations with each other is more important now than like it has probably been in our long time. They are just coming off of this space where they have not had that time to get to learn and talk to each other. And knowing that when we think about our students when they finish our system is we learn this in high school, what we want them to do is be able to learn how to write stories, and we want them to just have that conversation with their knowledge. Because we do have such like great we know that we have examples of our ability to systematically all the time. And it's real hard when you're calculator to get people really want to learn from each other. They want to see how is it working with this kiddo that I had 2 years ago, and how is it working with kids that are coming to me next year. What are the things that are working? So we're really committed this year is to really collect the examples of our best practices that are happening in our buildings, to share those as a coordinated difference. So and then talking about kids, what are the things that they say? When you really do it, it really does put kids awareness, so they can with our kids. And also sharing these with our families. It's really easy to ask, what do you do at school? It's really different when you know the different questions to ask that will get you a different response about what kids really are learning, what do they know, what do they know now that they didn't learn before. And so that's collaborative training. So thinking about that and then thinking about what does that mean for our local support. That's not a new system for us, it's just that I think that there's 3 different tiers could be great, so that tier 1 being these are things everybody gets, no matter who. Yeah, that tier 1 level, these are things we're committed to having experiences, having learning every single one of our schools. And at that tier 2 level, kids need to be some additional boards, right pushes, and things like that, so they know that this is. And at that tier 3 level, they may need to be more consistent with what they're doing. We know, and I know, it's not happened yet, I've yet to see a year where either as a teacher or as a principal where kids are all coming and starting in the exact same place, ready to learn the exact same thing at the exact same time. It's not happened yet. So we have second graders come in and who are still working on some things, we expect them to have a good grade. But we still need to have that need a second grade and push them to be ready to go. Now we have those coming to us second grade who are ready to read like first. And no matter where they are, they meet and deserve that type of people as a learner and as a
Create and coordinate systems.
because our tier behavior 3 teams and academically established for that's very Mark. Especially a lot of great really working on that idea that we are going to ensure that there's not a kid that gets left behind. We're not going to let a kid how we're going to get into those is really that idea of, as you were talking about, is that new data adaptation. We're going to make sure that really do data literate. And we're knowing our kids connected with the right kind of educators and push them in the right direction. So that team is really gonna be moving that literacy, that data literacy knowledge for that particular group, so that they can support that knowledge going into the next group, so that they can support it when they're working with their needs and supporting it over time. And the third part is being around who, teams, and here's to talk about academic science. But really, there's that idea that those two things support us to be able to use executive structure, and we don't use, we're not going to be around. In the past, what we've done is really focus on small lab specific grade levels, and really, as a building, we're going to focus a lot this year on it was real hard to teach kids how to read. Trust was a real big challenge. And so, as a building, we're going to focus on the idea of how do we focus on literacy skills, but knowing that we need to pull out more than just serve that literacy as our creative about this, and that every grade level has a ton of standards, and we can't do them all, but there's certain ones that if we don't get this here, it's going to make the rest of us really hard. And we have those times we're going to see grade level that we're committed to saying 100% of our kids are either going to meet or exceed this standard, and if they're not there yet, they're going to be actively engaged in intervention that has a much faster pace, that we know where they are, they know where they are, their family knows where they are, to get them those skills. Those are such big things. It's not
So there's 5 of us right now on this.
that plays into a lot of our work with the district level community, so that everything, there's more particular on ELA. Notice that we can't do that. In one first grade classroom, I think this is the most important standard. In this other first grade classroom, I think this other is the most important. So not only is it school each other real time to saying, nope, we're going to make sure everyone is here, but also passing on this. You can't have a first grader who goes to OPS and a first grader who goes to TPR have different core standards and say those are the most important things. And so that's a huge piece of this, is just that district level work around collaboration.
We'll go for the 2 cold
And really just thinking how, as a team, across the district and our building, are we making sure that our assessments are aligned, our kids are aligned, our goals are aligned, and bringing back that checklist of goals are a core value at our staff. So we set them as teams, how the goal work, teachers set them, their kids, teachers set them all the time, and involve their families with them. And we're bringing that back to that same value to say, we know.
Okay, that's 10 minutes. Please transition into your questions and answers at this time. 2 more minutes.
I'm gonna be quiet on a little bit.
We know it's short.
But really just come back to that idea that we know that there's not an education system that I want for any of my kids, that I don't want for any other person's children. And every single kid that walks into our school is somebody's world, and we want to have that kid have the best experience in the process. So how are we making sure that we build our system and our schools around ensuring that every kid does?
And asked actually the same thing I asked at OPS,
Yeah.
because, are you guys able, because I don't know if the state or other things apply, are you guys able to practice any outside professional development besides just sharing expertise?
So as far as like, yes and no, I mean, it depends. There's some as far as like conferences, is that what you're thinking?
That or, music and book clubs and things like that,
So we have some staff already who are doing a book study around some literary best practices. Our entire second grade is involved in that. That's going to get as well. Our district level CC team and lots around that. Do we know the science reading? There's some things that come in practices in the past, you're like, yeah, maybe that's obvious. And some sciences that we know from the past, actually those were great practices and we need to elevate those. So some ideas like, don't pull all the, like there's times to use popsicle sticks and there's times to all read the same passage and we're going to work together. I know, right? So that science is something we're doing.
Just
A
got
lot
a
of that's
few
still
more
on Zoom. We don't have that same opportunity yet for a lot of in-person.
What do you got, cash? game.
started to see a few
Yeah,
people
some guy,
operating.
I don't know how he got it, 7 touches for 98 yards. We need a touchdown.
Okay, that's 12 minutes. So we're gonna rotate again, the same direction. So if you are at OPS, you go to PTR. If you're at PTR, you're going to the middle school school's going to the high school school's going to OPS.
And ask Aaron, like, he will tell you that elementary school is
That's why I was like, I want to go and I still admit
Okay, here we go. We're gonna rotate.
Come on over, Team Ptarmigan, here we go. Come on down, come on down. It's like a price is right. You're the next I know, I saw you at the community.
Okay, I'm gonna start time right now.
That's right, I'm
10
Nita.
minutes.
Did he say go? Yeah, oh, okay. All right, well, welcome to Team Ptarmigan, Nita, I'm the new assistant principal at Ptarmigan, and I'm so excited to talk about our school. And I had a chance to intern in the there were two things that are just so amazing about, well, there are lots of amazing things, but two really big things that stood out. One of them was a sense of welcoming and belonging that is present at Ptarmigan. And it's really connected, I learned to kind of the staff have to ensure that every student has at least 3 positive interactions with people in their day. And it is just so present from where kids get dropped off to the in the building, current teacher, former teachers, people didn't even know, say good morning and connecting, and making sure that everyone knows that they are really important at being here. And then the other thing that really stood out to me is the collaboration by adults there, in informal ways and formal ways. This is the staff who works together to share good practices, resources, support in just so many ways, and I was really blown away. So I was so excited to get a chance to officially join the team. And what's been really cool about those two things, and I use this flow chart for myself, is that our students see that model for them, and now that we actually are 630 students back in our building, I'm beginning to see how our students have taken this, that they see, and bringing it forward in our school. And so they're getting this great welcome, and then our students come in and you hear them doing that same thing for each other, excitedly greeting and welcoming each other. Their classmates from our special life skills program. I was just in a class, I was saying that 5th graders in reading race at the reading lesson, and one 5th grader just hollers out, "Wait, we can't start reading, so-and-so's not here yet." And like, just this deep sense of like, we are a school together, and especially from a 5th grader, because I love them, but this would be a little too so it was especially touching to me that that's the level of connectedness. And then the collaboration. Our students have been so excited to be back together and working together. They are a daily pledge team, they write all our announcements, working together in teams like that. Really active leadership clubs for 4th and 5th grade, where they're supporting and serving our school as well as our community, like our fantastic food drive that we just had. And then also really going into that classroom and seeing that same level of collaboration. They are turned and talked with their neighbors and partnering on work, sharing their learning from others. And it's just really exciting to see how that just transfers to our students. So thinking about that as our strength and where we're at and where we want to go, we've come up with a vision statement that you can find out in the 6. Here you go. The Ptarmigan community is committed to creating a school that knows no limits to the academic and social and emotional success of each student, where all are supported and encouraged to contribute to the learning of themselves and others. A school where all feel safe, valued, welcome, connected, inspired, and empowered. And so to get us there, we're focusing, as you know, on kind of 3 areas, and we're just going to share those with you.
So the first one is really around that idea of agency and equity. So we know as education systems, over time we've created programs and everything
But this extra
4 and 10. Dude, if I win,
and right now, my value is like, how do we ensure that doesn't continue? And how do we push or ensure all of our kids are
playoffs.
there are teachers training with this show what they know, what they want. And it's really whether or not they support about it.
So when we think about
Or
our
they can talk about it.
school,
The multiple choice question doesn't really tell them much, other than sometimes the answer is B. But it doesn't really give us much more than that. And so they really have to do doing those things. And when we think about what that is, right, and it looks like as they put that capacity on the very and is that we want them to know that you're gonna figure out that's always gonna be always agree with that. Your relationship is the conversation and how to know that it is right their goal is how do you agree with right and they're talking and learning from each other. Part of my job is to say goals around that I have this to say and you have knowledge and we need to talk together about that. And
so we're trying to find ways to
and kids in separation to help them learn this right. So this year is you're really just practice to say you would adopt to and the thing is we have to all that do this, but we just
feel like some of those students just have never been asked. And that's such an honor to
amazing instruction and just have an
identify those students. So
really
although we feel great about our course, we feel like we can do more. We can get
what are the amazing
every single student.
and just sharing this
And really, to measure this, we did a student science survey.
Oh, that's right. That's a great strategy for being able to give us a student response.
We remember where we
And
did a
also
survey of all
kind of
students.
Because we're the ones that work for you.
We feel like
We're the ones who bounce from kids are going to get it, so they don't like
students.
So
So they
really
give us
making sure
some
we're
great
doing things that really help them get to that.
Hey, stars.
And thinking that as parents, I am guilty of this myself. So what do you Real guilty. Even though I think that's on the best question. Right, but then how is it, you know, our tuition this as well? What are some better ways that we and you can all do this, like, how would you be better ideas for families? Kids with learning? How are you teaching them at home as people think about it? How are you teaching us about their
One of the big, and we're able to respond to it. So like one of the biggest red flags for us is students.
So thinking about what that does and then building into our
he's
MTSS system, so that multi-tiered system isn't a new system.
Leading in charge said,
Maybe we look at that, is that like, there's a lot of people, you get a progress from everybody, you get one time. So the tier one level is that, what are the things that everyone's doing? These are things we ensure that, you know, for most kids, this is.
That is not a joke. Not a joke. You can see it in their eyes that they
And there's some things we might do for them.
But it's so fun to see.
How do we make sure that we're doing right now?
Like it's
In the right way. I have yet to
really
receive
excited.
every single secondary high school year in the exact same place.
We want to leverage that.
Hasn't happened yet, maybe next year.
One of the biggest
What we
things
do know is that we've got
done
second graders is that when you ask with gaps that we've seen because they would initially have how is it including
try to make that
and we've got second graders who are teachers ready to read like first graders in both of those. Kiddos is these are just around and make sure that so what we are really doing and hardly establish awesome tools around our tier
finding ways for students to.
we have not found your web teams as well that are really tier 2, tier 3 teams, so I'm gonna break on them.
We did
And
see
that's
on the
really that
survey
idea that our real goal is to say there's not a single kid that's gonna get left, there's gonna fall kids and equal.
We're working on the
And we're gonna make sure that we know that data so well and that team knows how to look at it so well, so they can help in the next meeting. That if you can't just live with one person, and people are really overwhelmed right now. So taking a small piece of ready to take that next step and how do you get deep into that data to become really literate and make sure your kids are doing the right interventions, they're making the right steps, they're on the path, so that's really our goal around our MTSS. The system is really going back to that homework part that the parent has to, that is our team that's going to be holding for that one to make sure and then thinking about academics, which feels like we talked about last time, but knowing that we won't get to it if we don't do those other things, so it's okay. I mentally prepare myself separately. As a school, our big focus is around literacy. it was real hard to teach kids how to read online. That was a challenge. And what we also know is there are a whole lot of academic standards already. And there's some really fun ones, like it's great to teach about labels. But if I have to pick and choose which standards and which grade I really want kids to be into, I really want kids to be able to know that A is a big academic important. And it's those are really big ideas that you've got to be able to have. So our work around this is making sure that we have identified what's the most important standards kids are going to have. We're not going to stop. And that all of our kids, if they're working this, and if they're not, they're actively needing intervention education in there. That there's not any because it's not academic. And if that means that they don't fully understand the difference between a faith and faith, that's okay. Those big ideas, that's important for us. It's closer. There's a difference, standard. But also that depends on.
I guess I didn't learn that.
They're all the stories. And so enough that because words are important, we have to be used across our building.
Okay, believe it or not, that was 10 minutes. Our last 2 minutes, questions?
I know, right? So really just to get to that, and to get involved in that it is something we're really used to doing, continuing to do a lot of at the individual kid level, at the teacher level, at the classroom level, at the grade level. What questions do you guys have?
Well,
I talk real fast.
I like that you're doing that, you said that the first level is important. I mean, acronyms is what we strive for, but it's like, if kids don't want to be there, and maybe they aren't engaged, kids really, making it, because I said to my parents, if you want to go to Johnny, if kids don't want to go to school.
Yeah, it's number 30.
How do you guys get that? Because I can find because they've taken away so many things that are fun for kids. I know, so it's like, to me, that's, I always look at what I did on high school. I look at the different things, but I and I know this better.
We're a bit much on it, we have a little extra.
It's a big job.
Not really excited.
Awesome. We are so excited, so happy. I thought of this analogy of a strong family.
Already seeing some fun.
I think a strong family where you were ready.
Oh, fun, thanks, nice. Fun spread. I have 5 girls in it, 7th grader, the boys are lost, like that, and then a 4th grader in the mix. It's helpful.
Okay, at 12-minute mark, we have one more rotation, which means you have one more school to see. So we're just gonna rotate. I'll let you guys talk louder when I get louder, that's great. Okay, so if you can rotate, now we can kind of do that.
I like that idea, the currency in a different way. So like, how do you individual kids? I really got
Get those guys out so you can have a seat here at Team Charm.
Okay, so we're gonna start 10 minutes, we're gonna start right now, 10 minutes.
I knew you were watching the game.
Yeah, it's not an answer. No, Marvin's not an answer.
We're just the only one that's not an answer. Like, it's just a, it's an outlier.
All right, well, Steve Tarmigan, I'm the new assistant principal at Tarmigan Ridge. I'm super excited to talk to you about our school, because I had a little sneak peek of Tarmigan in the spring. I got to be an intern on loan, and I came down, and there were a ton of things that stood out about Tarmigan for me that made me want to come back. But there were two really strong pluses that actually just were really quite profound to me about our school. And one of them was the sense of welcome and belonging that is present in Tarmigan. There's a staff commitment that every student has at least 3 positive interactions in the course of their day, and that is something that is present in every corner of our school, from drop-off to walking through, being greeted by their teachers, 4 of our teachers yet to come, and just really being excited to be welcomed and seen. And the other one is collaboration. This is a staff that in informal and formal ways works together so deeply to share practices, resources, support, knowledge, relationship across, oh, I had that student, let me connect. And those 2 things were really powerful last year, but it's been so exciting this year to be back. And as we've welcomed our 630 Mountaineers, our magnificent Mountaineers, watching our students take both of those things that are offered to them and modeled for them, and then they carry it forward. So they do these amazing greetings outside, and then you follow that student inside, they are doing that same thing. They are excitedly greeting each other, whether it's their classmates that are served and supported primarily in our life skills program, but we spend time in classrooms. The number of times students genuinely stop and say, how are you today? And then wait for an answer. Oh, that's awesome, have a great day. It is so fantastic. It is a place where adults and kids feel welcome and valued. And then that collaboration piece as well. Our students have been so excited to work together and be leaders at our school, to serve our school. You will see them every morning leading our pledge and our announcements, totally student-led. They are serving in leadership. Our fourth and fifth graders have a leadership club opportunity, and they are serving and supporting our school and our community, of course, which are fantastic fundraiser and one idea. And then working collaboratively in class. When you walk in classrooms, you will see students sharing their learning with each other, getting learning from them, having deep conversations about things that are just so exciting to see that they see it modeled and valued, and then they're offering it. A super touching thing that you just happened to see for that sense of connection. I was in a 5th grade classroom, and I love our 5th graders actually, but they get a little too cool for things. And the teacher was just getting ready to start with anything, and someone just points out, wait, we can't start it. The student's not here yet. We were waiting for the classmate that was doing some important meeting on the life skills program. That's how connected and the sense of belonging. They were like, wait, we're not all here yet. And so when we think about those as 2 really big, powerful pieces of our building and where we want to go with that, I think it's on page 6. You can see the vision that we put together. The Tarmigan community is committed to creating a school that knows no limits to the academic and social emotional success of every student, where all are supported and encouraged to contribute to the learning for themselves and others. A school where all feel safe, valued, welcomed, connected, inspired, and empowered. And Alicia's going to share kind of our 3 big focus areas this year.
So coming around those same big things that Erin has talked about, I've literally said everything that every year we got some at the table, so now it's on.
Sure.
I'm really sad, because I got my notes. When we think about infancy and change, one of the things I think we also need to face is that as a school system as a whole, right, we created some outlets, some disproportionate, unequitable outcomes for some kids. And how do we now start to work with this?
I can't hear them. So we're great.
One of the things is that there's critical thinking to show what you've learned and what you know. And I think there's can you talk about it or can you write about it? And that's about it.
So I
After
want
that,
to
it's a
go into
multiple choice and sometimes C's the right answer and that doesn't really work. So we know that those are the core things we want kids to see. Coming off of COVID, the being able to talk and have a collaborative conversation about each other is something that we know we get others. when our kids do that, because that's for middle school, high school, what we want for them to come into our system as a whole is to know that I'm gonna get new learning and information from every single person that I meet, which means I need people that have a passion, I need those confident artists, and I need people who can give it back. Because I have to teach them and they know that, and we need to see a assessment. So really this year we're focusing on how do we elevate student walk in our classrooms, and each of them are going to see themselves as evidence of that knowledge, as well as our classroom centers,
They might have
as well as the teachers of that knowledge, so how do we get them?
But some of them.
We also know it's real hard for trainers to get out of their classrooms, and because we have such a class staff that's ready to collaborate and they want to know the things that are happening in our communities. So we're
We
just
took
going to
time
look,
as
yep,
a leadership team.
how are those best
Where are our
practices
students?
that
How are they
happening
feeling
around our
about
school?
it?
Really archiving those,
Created a
getting teacher input, getting kid input around what are the things that work for them, what are the things that they're seeing consistently, so that we can all learn from each other around how to really elevate that student voice and that student voice, so that kids have that
Some of the data
and
actually.
the other piece of that,
Sorry,
yep,
you're doing that. So like, that's kind of your observation, when you see something.
so our observations, teachers will literally text pictures of like, oh my gosh, you're not believe this thing I did today. Like they will send a picture of like a video of like kids like, I gave this thing, you should take that. So really taking that and saying, how do we now collective archive of all of those things? Because it's one thing for them to share with me, sometimes because I don't know the value there.
Yeah.
But also knowing that they want that opportunity.
So they're surfacing the way that the rest of the
I know.
text.
I love your trying.
We do it in all of them. We literally send it and we call out one every single week in our staff newsletter. We are putting them together in some sharing public meetings as well. We share them with PLCs.
We want to
share them
leverage
with
that
our
at
staff
a high level
all that.
development. It's not just.
I love that because it's good for the students, but then we also have an opportunity to congratulate the teacher and acknowledge the work that's
Well, and sometimes you don't realize how good this thing is you're doing until someone else is like, oh, I didn't know that was that. Oh, okay, great. Like sometimes you're not even aware, but so it's really, it's empowering, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, I have a team that I'm leading in this collective whole,
You have to
and that's
identify
really
what are the
empowering.
most important things for students.
Thinking about what that means then when it comes to that lens and yes, yes, right. The idea that that tier one level, that there's things in every single community, and at that tier two level, there might be some additional support skills centers need, and a tier three, tier four. But I've yet to have a year where every second grader comes to us and say, it hasn't happened yet, maybe next year. But we have second graders coming who may need some support in their second set, things that they may have.
Finally, our
And kids who are coming to us ready for relocation. Every one of those kids deserves to have a good goal that's set for them, a good learning progression for them. And how we're gonna get to make sure that happens is through that tier 2 to 3 teams, they are already like well ahead of leaders in our school. So they're gonna become our experts in data adaptation and really making sure there's not a single thing in our school that's not that's left behind, that somehow falls through a crack, that we don't think that they go right. Which falls into our last one, which is that academic idea that as a school we're having a huge literacy focus because let's be real, it was real hard to teach little kids how to read online last year. That was a real big challenge. So knowing that as much as there are a lot of standards, and I realize that Aaron might be able to guess, but we're gonna pick some that we like better than others. And NIST tables is a real fun standard. I would much rather kids know how to speak slowly as they meaning from text. And if I had to pick one that to focus on this year, we're gonna pick the most important one. So each grade level goes through taking their most important standards, and we're gonna ensure that every single kid is gonna learn these. And if they're not, then they're actively engaged in an event that's gonna get them there in that time. And if that work cannot be done in isolation, so it can be done at a different classroom. And honestly, the 5% development, it can't be done at a single grade level, at least not for K-3, right? Second, fifth grade, fine, good targeted. But at K-3, that has to be the same experience across the board. So what's most important in first grade, yes, it has to also be what's most important in first grade. And so that collaborative work around that whole picture, no, the time to
One of the questions I had is like, the beginning of the year was so getting kids back Peter mentioned.
Okay, that was 10 minutes, 2 minutes question and answer, and then we'll be done.
Do you feel like it's distracting? Like, that's one concern of mine is that the kids, you know, they got their world rocked, come back to school, you guys, all the teachers coming back and having to now reset again in person.
Right.
And that, you know, we're a little 4 months in now, and do you feel like now, like things are easier?
So we've got, so it's been really interesting, so as someone who loves to look at data, there were some things that we saw coming with the small data, was like, ooh, that's really weird. That's unexpected. What we've noticed that when we see like our progress monitoring data, and we do a 6-week data team cycle with our each grade level team, and so this is a 6-week team, so we've done half of them so far, we'll finish the last one up, actually we've done all but 2, we'll finish those 4. What we've seen already is kids saying, okay, let's get this kid and this intervention. Are they making the grade? Yep, they're up to go. Awesome. So yes, it was definitely a weirdest start was where was daunting.
Yeah,
More
for
the
sure.
data that we were looking at. Well, just like,
But you're seeing the kids responding, interventions working, and they're kind of getting to a place where now you can take these goals and, no, I'm not saying, I feel like even this year, it's like, I don't want to set this expectation
It's
like
gonna be
way out
weird.
here, because it's still
It's
weird,
still
but,
weird.
yeah.
But we are, and even and there are kids that are like, oh, that's right, 5th graders, the last time y'all played together on a playground, we were 3rd graders. You all know how to play, we're here together, it's been a minute. So there's definitely some like learning spaces that are real different, and they have some good hormones on top of it, and it's just a lot. But it's like, at the same time, like, because the way that we saw in September are the same things that we have now in December, and like, and we knew it was gonna come, but it's just, is it harder this year, because it feels like it takes longer? Yeah, and everything feels like it's a little bit different. There's things that's not, I don't think we don't go back to. I'm not looking forward to an assembly of 700 kids ever again. That I would be 700 kids that does not fall behind my face. I hate that. Probably split assemblies from now on sounds phenomenal. But it's, there's a lot of things that take.
Okay, that's 10 minutes. Believe it or not, that was our last group. So if you could wrap up what we're talking about, and let's all get it back together.
Finishing up the last look at in my box. Hard. He was like beyond himself. He was so excited. And you know, it's just like, I didn't see you. I have seen someone having words is hard. I'm like, I know. But, you know, I think definitely starting to see. Is there a long way to go? Yes. But what's the next thing? What's the one thing we can do today? The next one thing. What's the next thing? We'll get there. It's just, yeah, it's better. It really is, but so that's for sure.
All right, thank you principals, thank you directors. We could gather back together now.
I can't wait to come back.
And this year I think we are the spring one. Oddly enough, high school did not want to work with the same graduation. Also happening, and kind of weirdly enough, so I think we are taking their spot this next. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah. Well, and thank you to you guys for the work that you do to support us. Thank you. It's really appreciated. Yeah. Oh, I know. This year, thank you very much. That would be awesome. Every classroom I go to, I hear myself. I know it's due to all of them.
We get that way with
Oh, yeah.
because my last grade was one much a week.
Oh, yeah. And it's good to hear it your own self.
Yeah, you just say the same thing over and over for 2 hours.
Yeah. It's all. Did I just celebrate the chest? Did I do
Yeah,
No circulation, my
In about 2 minutes, I will notice that I'm cold, but just talking to you.
Yeah, you might say that.
Good enough that I don't
not something that my hypothermia is setting in.
Yeah, we don't, see, I have long sleeves on and it's, well, I should have. They use them, so I'm a little chilly.
Now, I don't want to say I told you so. I think we should go get a round of applause. Definitely honored to be able to work with all of these people. They're doing a great job in difficult times, so way to go.
Yeah, but we would love to invite our leaders to go home early and not stay to the end if you so choose. However, before you do, board, do you have any comments that you would like to say or share publicly before our leaders go get some well-deserved rest?
I will just, once again, say thank you, and I know that I've been in Orting for quite a while, and my youngest attended every single school, and my older two boys were PTR, OMS, and high school, and my oldest son, the high school, and every time I get to sit here at a table and listen to what you guys have envisioned for your schools, it brings such a joy to my heart to know that my kids went through this, right? And it might not be you and you that were with them the whole time, but that's still that community. You're a part of their history. And I now have adult children that are phenomenally successful, I like to say, and it's because of you and your staffs at the buildings and what you are paving the way for these students. And my kids got to be a part of that, and I'm just so grateful that our community of students have you as the lead of these buildings. And I thank you for all of your hard work and dedication. And I'm going to stop talking now because
I would just like to say thank you, and it's so hard to get all your vision and your goals out in, well, and I just want you to know that we've read through the details, and what you say to us tonight matters, and we pay attention, and I can't wait to come back and hear how you're doing, and what have you learned, and what have you been able to accomplish, and what do you still have in your sights for our kids. It's just really important for me, and I feel like we break through these meetings, and I just want to spend so much time talking with you more, so thank you.
And I love the excitement that you feel. I can, like when you go down, like you really feel it. It's not just like, oh, this is what I have to do. I have to say these things and act like we're making improvements, but you're actually excited about it. And I have a grandkid in every school but OBS, so I know that they're also seeing some of these really cool things that are happening. So I like it. That it's real.
And I hope that we get a chance to find out at the end of the year how you felt it went with these new initiatives and these ideas. Because I'm sure that you'll be assessing them later down the road. So I want to know. And I'm so excited to get to personally sit at each table and talk with you instead of just doing a presentation. Thank you.
And Grace is going to have a bunkini for you on the way out. Right now. So I don't want to take them home and eat them all. I don't bake as well as you guys do, so I just want them.
Did you say bacon?
Well, yes, you definitely are welcome to stay, but we also know that you have many late nights, so if you choose. No.
wonderful night.
Everybody. I'm gonna take your seat. Oh, not next. You have to remind your.
Hey, Alicia, you still want me to come by tomorrow? Take pictures?
Go for it. It's pajama day. It'll be a good time.
You're gonna like my outfit.
Awesome. I'm in.
It's fun to talk about our school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tomorrow.
I got it.
You did a great job, Cliff. Good job, Matt.
Maybe pull that one off.
Maybe not that. Oh, look at those. These chairs aren't as comfortable as I would like them to be. All right, so we're on second reading of this handful of policy considerations, so any discussion?
A question. Just, so once we go through this again, are we going to see this again? Or is this is it here?
We ready for a motion? I'm ready for a motion. A motion to approve the second reading of policy considerations.
All in favor?
Aye.
Policies are all approved. Now we've got the consent agenda, which includes a number of items. And there's no discussion, and motion.
I move to approve items 1 to 6 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda passes. And then we've got a handful of action items. So the first item is the Senior Center and Orting Family Support Center lease agreements. These are something we do annually. So we have a motion to approve these, which are
Up to another year prior to relocation.
They have a lot of work they have to do in the building to make it so that it's accessible and also meet qualifications for different grants and things like that, so they have a lot of work to do.
I passed that one today, so they do such a good job there.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to approve the senior center lease agreement and the Orting Family Support Center lease agreement as presented.
I can second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This is a new resolution for us. So it is a resolution to make January Full Child Month, and a number of other districts are doing this in the community. So in order for us to enact January as Full Child Month, I'll need a motion to approve the resolution.
I'm excited to move to approve resolution number 32021, 2022 whole child month as presented.
Thank you.
Because we don't get this part of the child when they go to school.
That's great. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Excited about that one. We've got a lot of important work to do there.
Great timing too.
Yes. This next one, also significant.
I move to approve resolution number 4, 2021-2022, concerning the purchase of real property located at 710 Washington Avenue North, Orting, as presented.
I second it wholeheartedly.
move to approve resolution number 4, 2021-2022. This is for number 5. Number 5, resolution number 5, 2021-22, concerning the purchase of real property located at 510 Washington Avenue North as presented.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Those are the big ones.
Just get a little pork coaster.
I'm learning this president
I'm missing spot.
All right, those are the big ones for us. I'm excited about that. Yeah. So now, also always, is student report.
Yeah, that's me. Well, I'm the only representative here tonight, but that's okay. So today and yesterday, we had our Winter Wishes Assembly, which we had to split because of COVID, and we kind of talked about that. We had over $9,000 worth of gifts and items of need that we got to give out, which was all funded by our community and our schools and our teachers, which is really, really awesome to me. Winter Wishes is a really big tradition for me. I only had one real one in person from freshman year. This is only my second one, but I really love this tradition.
Do you mind if I ask you, if I recall, this is the biggest year yet?
I think so, yeah.
In terms of money raised?
Yeah, it was really big this year. It was really amazing. One of my friends is actually the guy that got the baseballs for Mr. Naz. He's like one of my really good friends. When I was there, we received all the emails and stuff like that, and Mr. Naz is a huge place on almost all of our hearts, so I think I was crying. I probably did cry. It's a really big thing. And just seeing everyone with their wishes granted, just the looks on their face, and I know when student leadership classes would come in and like deliver your gifts, just the little things, the things we actually needed. It's a really big deal in our school, and I really love this tradition. Also, along with all those, we had our games, and this week was also Spirit Week. Today was Pajama Day. I figured I shouldn't wear that here, but I figured that might not be appropriate. I know we had a couple new clubs. The Empowerment and Equality Club, I believe, is the club that just had a menstrual hygiene drive, which was really important.
Which club is it?
I believe it's Empowerment Equality Club. I read announcements, so I'm trying to go off of what I've been reading the past few weeks. And FBLA just had a winter warmth drive, which I believe ended today. And tomorrow. Ends tomorrow. I don't know the total yet. I'll have to go back to my advisor for that one. But I believe from the boxes that I've seen, it looks like a really big turnout. Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to think what else we've been doing. The plays and the music has been really good. Lots of turnout.
Do you know, are you guys going to do another play this year?
I believe so. I don't know any of the details yet. I don't know much. I'm assuming probably spring. And then the canned food drive actually is happening right now while we're at this meeting with NHS. And I'm assuming that'll have a good turnout. I was supposed to be there, but I was here first. So, yeah, that's all I have for you guys. I really liked all the ideas that were presented from the teachers and stuff like that. I heard lots of great ideas that are being implemented this week. So, that's all I have.
I'm super glad you got to be included in that as you went around the table.
Me too. I was really excited. I like hearing different perspectives coming from like more than just the high school that I know, where the middle school work's more recent for me. It's nice hearing the lower elementaries and stuff like that too.
What's nice as a district, as we're leaning into that student voice, more important than ever. And so the fact that you got to sit at the tables and kind of hear some of that, I hope that if anything resonated or questions popped up, that you would feel comfortable enough to be able to say, hey, you know, that's it's what drives the people that work here and why we're sitting at these tables up here. So I love that you were included in that, and I always look forward to the portion of the meetings when we get to hear that, because it's important how you guys are doing that stuff. So
thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Also, I know at the middle school level, I said this while I was at my table, but he talked about the postcards, writing postcards each year. He wrote me a postcard back after, I think, it might have been my last assembly in 8th grade or something, but I still have it, it's up on my, like, I would die about it. So that resonated with me a little bit. I keep little mementos though, so, but I think it's really important that they're making exceptions across all the schools in the district.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just last item on the agenda, board comments. Board is anything you'd like to add to our future discussions or?
I'm just going to say, I hope everybody has a wonderful break, well deserved. And I believe the central office is going to be shut down because people are going to be on vacation. And some on beaches someplace, at home in front of the fireplace. But I thank you all. And I know that, well, I put up here on the tables here that I did some baking and I made enough for you that are here to take a little platter of home-baked goods. Not that you know, like me, I kind of eat everything at the holidays. But I hope you enjoy your holiday season with your family and having kids home from college and just have a great, great season. Enjoy the break.
I thought it was perfect that last meeting of this year, we got to pass the resolution about the property. And what a thing to celebrate.
We still have some work to do, make sure
Right,
it's
right.
visible and all that kind of work.
So that's public, this is public, this is, people know,
The resolution has passed.
that's the address.
The resolution is passed. The next step is engagement signing. Mr. Lee and I have an appointment with owners tomorrow morning at 10. So we presume in the output, we will be able to execute the contract that you approved tonight.
Future thought for a mascot for whatever school might go there, spot it here, just saying. You need to come up.
I'm not sure there could be any other mascot. We'll be explaining that one for And I think this is a requirement that it can be animals or other officials. There's rules now that we have to comply with for naming mascots.
Oh, they can't animal me?
They can be animals.
And just, I hope it keeps inhabiting that nice area there. I love seeing it.
Well, it's gonna be much happier with the schools than it would have been with houses that are part of it. So,
Yes.
That's true.
They're all looking to the deer. They're all on the track. All right.